Hey, how's it going, y'all? Hope you're having a great day, night, and or evening. And this is my review and overview, and it will have spoilers of Mafia: The Old Country. Now, this was originally going to be an hour-long video. I decided not to go with that. I decided to go with a much faster route, and I got names wrong a lot. Now, I might mispronounce names now, but that's okay. Let's just get into it. Our main antagonist or protagonist, that's what it is, of this here is Enzo Favara. Now, I don't know if in the actual game you ever really hear his last name, because they really just call him some weird, like, kind of, I don't know, it's kind of like a downplaying of him as a character, kind of like a stupid guy type of situation, or just a grunt worker. As an insult for most of the game whenever they go to insult him, even with Don Teresi, which, let me tell you right now, this will have spoilers. I'm telling you now, spoiler alert, are going to be in here. You're here for an overview and review of the game. If you don't want spoilers, go ahead and, click off the video now, I guess. But Enzo is your main protagonist. You find him when you're inside the mines. You start playing as him, you find a little toy that his dad left him before he sold him to the Spadaro Mafia, which honestly I couldn't imagine if I was in his father's shoe. Actually, yeah, singular shoe, by the way. He just has one big, large, fat foot. His shoe, actually being able to have the guts to sell your son to anyone, let alone a mafia boss that is going to force him to work, and from what I know of, is sulfur mines for a majority of his life, making him look like a bald-headed baby for who knows how long. Now, if you guys have seen the beginning of it, you already know what happens. His buddy dies in the mines. He goes down to try and save some people that ended up getting, messed up with gas, and they're passed out. Fire goes everywhere. Stuff starts to blow up all around him. It looks like a Fast and the Furious movie, but more recent day, like when they went to space. But if they had the mind of if they were still in Fast and Furious 1, where it was a pristine movie. But overall, he meets his first, I would say, enemy, which is Damiano. Oh my god, these names. Bastioni. That's what we're going to call him. Bastioni, and then he has a brother as well, but that doesn't matter as much for now. Alright? He gets in a knife fight with him, escapes the mines, and leaves. Now, in between here and now is where you meet Don Teresi for the first time. And technically, you're on his land and he saves your life. Now, so far in this game, from this beginning point to where we are currently, it shows you the whole title screen, Mafia: The Old Country, and I am already just hit with the absolute beauty that is the game of Mafia: The Old Country. The mountains look beautiful. The water shimmers just properly. The sun, tremendous. It almost makes you want to touch grass outside yourself until you go and touch it, and it's a little itchy on your skin for one reason or another. Who knows? Maybe you're allergic to everything, Some people have that problem, unfortunately. But he finds you in his shelter while you're being hunted down by Spadaro's Mafia clan, and he saves you, brings you in, and you do a few missions for him, and then his absolute dime piece of a daughter, and let's not even go ahead and stop here, alright? Absolute beauty of a daughter, Isabella Teresi. She comes up to you, talks to you a bit, and this is absolutely, after a few things happen, and you can tell Enzo instantly falls in love, because if you were Enzo's situation, you'd be like, sorry, Don, I don't know what to tell you, but your daughter might be mine for a night or two, okay? She might be mine for the rest of our life. But unfortunately, Don Teresi's whole problem and situation here is that he wants to sell off Isabella to a rich family. Now, a lot of people, when I was streaming, called it conservative values. I mean, maybe that is a conservative value, I don't know. It might be, it doesn't ring a bell to me, but there are countries that still quote unquote sell off their daughters or sons to be able to have a large inheritance of money into their family, and they marry them off that way instead for love or whatever the situation is, like it is for a majority of the time in modern day, I feel, in most countries, not all, some countries don't follow that, but not all. But Don Teresi is one of them, and one of the largest, richest people in the town of Sicily, because that's what I'm going to call it. I think it's called Sicilia in game, but I'm calling it Sicily because that's what it's based off of. Who owns all of the land that Teresi's currently on, because, well, Teresi just runs the land, rents it pretty much, and has people do it for him with grapes. He offers jobs, and honestly, from everything you can tell, comparing it to the mob bosses of Mafia 1, which, to be honest with you, the only reason Tommy Angelo got in there was to get back at a few people, and he really saved the Dons and his buddies' ass, which would be Sam and Paulie. He saved their ass from it. So, if anything, in Mafia 1, in my opinion, the Don in that one needed to give Tommy something big, which I guess was initiating him into the Mafia to begin with. Versus this one, you're saved by Teresi by being brought out of the mines, whether the Bastoni brothers and the Spadaro Mafia liked it or not, it did not matter. There's a few other characters you meet here, such as Caesar, which, to be honest with you, I was never a big fan of him the entirety of the game. And, yeah, he's kind of your best friend, but to be honest with you, he's no Luca. Luca is a full-blown best friend unit for the entirety of the game until he unfortunately comes to his inevitable death, which seems to happen in every single one of the Mafia games. If I'm right, I also think that, what's his name? Joey also dies in Mafia 2, if I remember correctly, as well. So, in the Mafia 1, your best friend Paulie dies. Every single Mafia game, the main protagonist character, their best friend always seems to die. Now, don't get me wrong. I always kind of saw Caesar as a Sam. I always saw him as one of those characters that they wanted you to get close to, but always feel hesitant to get close to him. Because at the end of the day, it's Don Teresi's nephew, okay? Not only is he the nephew, but it's also the cousin of Isabella Teresi. So obviously he's, with her being the love interest, Enzo has to be extremely, and I mean extremely careful about the whole situation around him the entirety of the time. Now, Tino at one point in time in this game ends up catching you talking to Isabella in some sort of garden situation, and I hate Tino. He is a pain in the ass the entirety of this game. But what I can say is every single one of these characters fit where they're supposed to be. They don't really step out of line. Their personality is their personality. It's not like any of them really have a major shift in character. Enzo is exactly who I thought he was going to be. He reminded me a lot of, I guess you could say, Tommy Angelo in a lot of ways, where he was really there more for survival at the end of the day eventually. Or even Tino. He's like the right-hand man in the mob. I mean, what was the dude's name? The old gray-haired with glasses dude who went to Italy in Mafia 1 and ended up getting caught by the mob, which I honestly think that Caesar is in control of the mob in Mafia 1 because, Teresi dies, which, spoiler alert, that's what happens eventually. And that's who Tino is to Don Teresi, and it was only a matter of time until he eventually betrayed him, in my honest opinion. You just kind of got to it first. Now, throughout the game, eventually you do a bunch of missions for the Don. You have to, destroy this guy, and then eventually it gets to the point to where Isabella and this rich kid gets kidnapped. Now, I don't remember the rich kid's name because I don't feel like his name is very worth remembering. Because at the end of the day, you're always going to look at him and know that he's the rich kid because his father owns the land and he's the only one in that fancy of a suit. The rest of you are kind of in close to that suit, but let's say you're wearing a, homemade Italian suit. He's wearing the Versace variant of that, okay? Straight up the best of the best that you could find. Now, they get kidnapped by another, I think it was some sort of mob boss or just another person in general who was kind of on Spararo's side, who wanted to use them as a ransom to get a bunch of money and or the land from Teresi, whatever it took to be able to screw over Teresi in the long run. And this is really where the war begins. In Mafia 1, it was because the two bosses, one of them kept on, intruding on the land. In this one, it's the same situation. The Spadaro keeps on trying to take over territory of Teresi, and Teresi's not going to have it. So, what happens? Enzo ends up going out, literally saving Isabella, then he saves the rich kid, and then he has to be told by Don Teresi, go out and destroy this guy and make a statement with him. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but while you're playing this, once you kidnap the guy from the house and bring him to the point where you're showing him as a statement, where you literally leave his body and I think his fingers cut off for people to see and know what happened, as a statement to say don't mess with Don Teresi, but Don Teresi didn't do this because there's no proof. Like, there's obviously no DNA forensics. Dexter Morgan isn't out there. I mean, maybe he is, but he's not out there doing forensics. He's just out there doing killing on his own, situation. Jack the Ripper type vibes, you get what I mean? In between that, though, if you don't kill him, fun fact, Tino will actually just straight up blast you. And I mean, he straight up blasts you. And this isn't the only time in this game that Tino will do this to you either. There is another scene in this game that it's a little bit hazy where it is, because I kind of forgot because it happened twice. Because the first time was so like, wow. But he will just straight up call you a bitch and blast you right to the side of your head. Does not care, and then does the blasting himself. So if that doesn't show you what kind of character Tino is, I don't know what will. He is a no-nonsense guy who follows the word of Don Teresi, probably because Teresi's done very well by him. No matter what the situation is, he does not care. You do what's told of you. You are a soldier, and you will do what's needed. And at the end of the day, Enzo was still kind of owes his life in a way to Teresi, until up to this point. Now, right after you cut his fingers off, that is when you become one with the Teresi mob crime family. You go in there with Tino, Luca brings you in there, they make it seem really serious. Now this is something I want to point out now. And there should be the cutscene right here for it, by the way. This is very different than in Mafia 1 and 2, in my opinion. In Mafia 1, it was a dark room. In Mafia 2, you all kind of just stood around like an office desk table in a restaurant, which I never understood. I remember it very clearly because I have a recording of me talking over it not too long ago where I made a little video of like them fake at a restaurant. There's a short about it if you want to see it, and you'll know what I'm talking about. But in this one, you are in the caverns underneath the Teresi orchard. In the bottom of, like, I would almost call it the catacombs of the cellar, where he has set up a trapdoor for you to go through, and then he's like, do you want to be part of this family? Now, the entirety of the time, where in Mafia 1 you have comic relief, Mafia 2 there's comic relief, Mafia the old country, there is no comic relief. It is very serious the entirety of the time throughout this game. I mean, 100%, I don't remember laughing at this game once, but I remember it being at constant awe. I mean, as you can see through the gameplay alone while I'm even driving through this, and I'll put something where I'm actually driving so you can see it here. The mountains are beautiful. Everything is an absolute... It feels like you're watching what would be known to some people, maybe a Spanish drama or an Italian drama, where everything has to be taken serious, and you can tell it makes the characters feel alive. Versus in Mafia 1, the characters did feel alive, but at the same time, Tommy Angelo had a comedy relief through Paulie, and through Sam somewhat. There was always some sort of weird, funny thing that would happen here and there that would be, wow, that's kind of stupid, I can't believe that happened situation. Mafia the Old Country doesn't have that. It is intense the entirety of the gameplay. You literally feel like you are a part of something, and you chose this. Your loyalty is now to Don Teresi and the rest of the family. You will do whatever it takes for you to succeed in this family, because not only do you owe Teresi your life at this point, you owe him your life 2 times over, because you're also secretly seeing his daughter on the side. Now, it is up to personal perspective on whether people like the idea of Enzo going after her, I honestly understand why Enzo ended up going after Isabella. It made sense to me. Isabella didn't exactly make it hard. She chased him down like a hound dog chasing down a piece of bacon. She was there the entirety of the time and simply did not care. She didn't care who her dad wanted her to marry. She didn't care what her father wanted. All she did know was that her father would never approve of them, and if they actually wanted to go somewhere, that they would have to learn a way to escape without the approval of her father. Now, the entirety of the time that after Enzo is a made man and is officially on a consistent basis seeing Isabella and even has his own property opposite of the vineyards of Teresi, he still understands and is trying to think to himself, how can I get Teresi to approve of me enough for me to marry his daughter? Now, once again, the graphics are beautiful in this game, but you understand eventually what Isabella is saying is correct. It took me a long time. I was like, Teresi seems like a reasonable man. Like, he might not have that big of a problem as long as Enzo comes up to him and says something to him in general. Now, I still think that instead of, like, at the end of the game, when Enzo eventually tries to run away, if he still went up to him and tried to speak with him and maybe never ended up making a move on Isabella in the first place, he might have honestly given Enzo a possible, very small possible, I'm saying like maybe 30% possibility of a chance of actually having the honor to date his daughter, Isabella. But at the same time, we just went over this earlier, he wants Isabella to date a rich man. Now, Spadaro eventually, on a consistent basis, is now trying to invade and destroy Teresi in any way possible, meaning he's doing crimes such as destroying you here, there, and everywhere, stealing some whiskey from you by paying off the police. He also eventually, because you get in a fight with Barstoni, his older brother, Corrado, you get in a fight with him, and he tries to hunt you down and Caesar down to try and destroy you, even though he's a made man and can't really do that because it starts a war. Spadaro doesn't care about a war. He never cared about it to begin with, because Spadaro is the crime family that owns the mines. And let's be honest, what do you think's more profitable? The Teresi wine or the mines that are literally mining sulfur up? I'm going to say the mines. You can make as much wine as you want, but having people actually go down into the ground and bring a raw mineral up is always going to be more worth it in the long run. Just at a basic cost fallacy, it's going to be worth more. You know what I mean? So, in between this, though, there's a major crime, and one of the biggest things that happens here, that I personally think that happens here, is that Spadaro family attacks the Teresi family on a holy day. Now, this is a day where they follow a saint, and it's one day a year where there's supposed to be no crime between the families. There's supposed to be no fighting. It's not Christmas. I think they kind of treat it close to it, though. It's not Christmas, and Luca, one of your best buddies, is having his brand new just born child baptized. So this is a day where it's supposed to be all amazing hype. It's Teresi's put on a huge parade for this situation to make sure that people can eat, drink, do as they please, have an elegant day that they probably very rarely get in general in the village up the road from the Teresi orchard. Now, on this day, because of the actions of what you did to Dominio Bastoni, what you did to his brother, because you and Caesar, quote unquote, were in a gun chase with him, and all of a sudden he just ends up on fire, and when Spadaro and Teresi come to the table, Teresi says he knows nothing about it, because he doesn't, because it was Caesar's idea to set the car on fire, and whether he likes it or not, he stepped into a war with the Cabal. So, for this situation here, There's now an all-out war, which means, in Spadaro's opinion, it doesn't matter what holy day it is. It doesn't matter who you are, what you're doing, and when you're doing it. Whatsoever. Literally, Bastoni goes to a tower above the church and snipes one of your allies right in the side of the head, aiming for you. Now, this is after you've insulted him on numerous occasions because, one, he didn't win against you in a knife fight. Two, you were able to escape from his grasp and go into the opposite mob family and become a made man with them. You literally did something he did not seem plausible for you in his mind and does not think it's plausible. So, of course, you're going to be his number one person to kill here. Eventually, though, you find him, you start chasing him up this way, and you have to then fight him literally to the damn near death in the middle of the village, which eventually ends up being a chase of horse and car, or car and horse, or car and car. Whatever it is, everything in between, you actually have to chase down Bastoni. And you end up in some sort of fight. Unfortunately, he crashes. And when Bastoni crashes, Enzo decides not to be very smart and have his rifle out on him to destroy him for when is necessary. But, because of this situation, Bastoni comes and is on top of you, aka Enzo, and is literally about to stab you, but then Luca, your generous, beautiful friend, beautiful man, saves you once again from being dead. Now, this isn't the first time Luca saved you, it won't be the last time, okay? But in one of these very few missions coming up, when I believe, eventually after all of this happens, because of the holy day and the incident, Don Teresi is forced to sit down with another one of his fellow Dons who he's had entrusted for a very long time, and the person who owns the land underneath him. Now, he says, if you want this fighting to stop, because I need it to stop, or we're going to take your land from you, Teresi's literally given no choice but to have a sit-down meeting with Spadaro and his goons, surrounded with this very, very rich man telling him during this meeting that not only will you give up all of your land, not only will you give up all of your crew, but you will be offered protection by Spadaro in return for this very, very amazing gesture. He will protect you and your family. Now, I don't know what you're hearing here, but to me, that is the man who owns the land where Teresi Orchards is on, absolutely betraying the person he's been with for years. Now, you might ask, why is this betrayal happening? Well, it's the mines. Spadaro owns the mines, and he was going to give the very rich man a little piece of it. And because of that, he was more than willing to do whatever it takes to make sure Teresi would sit down and shut up no matter the situation. And unfortunately, as this whole situation unravels, Teresi says, that's not happening. I'm not giving you a damn thing. And Spadaro gets sick of it and says, all out war, let's go. Now, at this point, you already know how this is going to end. Someone's going to die. And unfortunately, that happens to be your very best friend, Luca. The man who saved you not once, not twice, but 3 times, I'd say, minimally, has been there for you the entire way from before you were part of the Teresi family to when you became part of the crime family of the Teresis, to helping you probably put in a voice for you to become part of the family to begin with. He gets shot dead center in the chest. Now, he isn't dead yet, and you now have to help Don Teresi fight and lift Luca out of this situation to be able to save Luca. Unfortunately, even with every single one of you guys fighting, you guys going fully through the entirety of getting Luca back to the bar and bring him to the table for a doctor to see him, and you're sitting there thinking to yourself as the player, Luca's got to make it. There's no way he's not gonna. You know, they didn't let Paulie make it. They didn't let Joey make it. You just found Joey dead, I'm pretty sure, and I know you found Paulie dead. All right? Instead, they're going to have you watch Luca just die right there in your arms. There's no shot that's happening. There's just no way in hell. They're not going to let that happen. Luca's last words to you are literally, get out. Get out. Now, I don't know if you're me in that situation, but if your best buddy, who was the one who brought you in here, is literally yelling at you to get out, I think you're going to try your damnedest to get out. And this is really where the rest of the story unfolds. You go and take out Spadaro, you take out the landowner, and you also take out his kid. And you also have to take out a few odds and ends after that decided to betray you by joining the Spadaro family, by believing the Teresi family wasn't going to be good enough for them, wasn't going to be able to do what they needed. So you took out all of Teresi's enemies. You'd imagine at this point, because you as Enzo, which did a lot of these as solo missions, would now have the respect of the Don to be able to go up to him and say, I love your daughter, and I want her hand in marriage, and I will do whatever it takes to do so. No, he doesn't do that. He decides to do the complete opposite of that and follow what Isabella said. Now, I understand why, but in my situation, from how I see it, I still think that Enzo could have sat down with Don Teresi, because he never seemed like a totally unreasonable person to me in this. He still could have sat down with Don Teresi and actually leveled with him as man to man and tried to come up with something. And if he absolutely hated it and Don Teresi said no, this would be when you would want to have Isabella waiting at the train station or wherever she is to run away. Far, far away, to make sure that you can just make it there barely in time. So you can't get kidnapped by A, B, or C like what eventually happens. Because at this point, Don Teresi owes you his life. You saved him. You saved his land, and you saved his crime family to begin with. Why would he not want you in there with him? It doesn't make any sense. But in Enzo's unrational mind, because he just killed a mob boss and is constantly looking over his shoulder, not only that, but he killed many of his allies that were trying to go to the Spadaro family instead, with Caesar, by the way. It no longer makes sense. Now, I know I skipped over a lot of stuff, such as the money laundering operation, but to be honest with you, it was one of the ways you were making money as a crime family. And yeah, you had to go out there, you had to steal the little printing plates, you had to get the printing machine from illegally, because during a wartime or whatever, there was one that was quote-unquote destroyed but wasn't destroyed. You were shipping it to Empire Bay the whole entire time, so they would send you stuff back. And it's kind of like how earlier you would send wine to them, or no, this was for the cash. You'd send cash to them, they would send you an American race car to race. I feel like these aren't parts that are truly matter. Yes, of course they do, but it's part of the crime situation. You know what I mean? It's happening. It's part of the way you make money in the family. But, back to where we were. You don't tell Teresi anything. Instead, you're on your way to do a mission for Teresi, and Caesar tells you, listen, you're acting funny, the Don sees it, we all see it, you need to stop and buck up because you're not coming around the vineyard even close to enough. Orchard, vineyard, same thing. Something's going on and you're not telling us, and the Don's suspicious. Tino's suspicious, he's getting in his head. Luca's dead. There's no one there to talk you out of this now besides me. Okay? You need to figure something out here and make yourself back ASAP. And it's not like the entirety of this time that Enzo never had the opportunity with any other woman. He did. He was going to the bars constantly where they had woman of the night. He could have instantly met any other woman on the street. He did not need to go after the Don's daughter whatsoever. Now, the Don's daughter was just kind of there in a lot of situations, and she was a very beautiful woman. She did not need to go after Enzo either, but honestly, it doesn't surprise me that Isabella's going to go against her dad and do whatever she wants anyway, because she's very rebellious. So, after you do a few more missions for the Don, you tell Isabella to meet you somewhere so you can get on to an escape to Empire Bay from train to boat. Now, I forgot to mention this earlier because it just now feels important. you actually get one of the tickets from one of your allies. And you might think to yourself, that's obviously how you got caught. Because one of your allies, who was another close friend, but not really close to the Teresi family, he was part of a crime family that was just very close to the Teresi family. His father was the head of that crime family. Alright? Now, you get the tickets from him to go to Empire Bay. You'd imagine he's obviously the one that said something. Believe it or not, no. It was actually when you went to go kill one of your own, part of the Teresi crime family, who ended up working with Spadaro, that was hiding in a church, when Tino actually went up to the pastor and forced him to spill everything he knew. And unfortunately for you, Isabella decided to tell him that you and her were going to escape to Empire Bay together. So now, the Teresi crime family brings you way out into the middle of the mines, which he now owns, and he's going to say, you're going to die where you started. And obviously, you get into a knife fight with Caesar, you win. You get into a knife fight and have to fight your ways all the way to try and escape to get back to Isabella because they caught you at the train station. You fight Don Teresi, you kill him, and he tells you, you're not going to change. There's no way you're going to change. How are you going to change what you are? What you are is what you are. Now, at this moment, you see Caesar, and you think to yourself, in my head at least, don't trust him. You were just fighting him with a damn knife. You were fighting him with a damn knife. But Enzo, wanting to trust one of his best buds at the time, to me it's almost like trusting Sam from Mafia 1. I never did the entire time. I thought he was a snitch the whole time, and it was ridiculous to do so. Caesar brings you up with his hand, apologizes to you, then stabs you in the side. Now, this is when it comes to one of my favorite parts of the game. I thought it was going to end there. No, it doesn't. You actually end up being Isabella for a while, playing as her at the end of the game while a volcano's going off everywhere in the background because, you know, that's just what's happening in Italy at the moment, I guess. I don't know if that's actually true lore or not. Maybe there is a volcano in Sicily, but it was going off and everything was burning. Even while you were fighting as Enzo, it was going off and shaking the ground. It happened at the very beginning of the game. It would shake the ground. All right? That's why your buddy ended up dying in the mines. Is not because of the volcano itself erupting at that moment, but because the ground would literally shake and the gas would cause leaks and then boom, explosion. All right? So Isabella's now got to find a way out of this because they are going to force her to have an abortion of the child she so dearly wanted with Enzo. Fortunately for you, after doing a whole bunch of zigging and zagging through the entire mission, you escape, but now you have to find out and kill Tino, which I couldn't wait to do this, man. The moment I saw that's who we were facing and who as Isabella you had to kill, I was like, yes. I've hated this guy from the very start. I haven't liked him for even 5 seconds. Not even 5 seconds. I was ready to blast him at the very start. Thank God. You kill Tino. Caesar comes up to you as Isabella. She screams, "Where's Enzo?" He says to you, "Leave, there's nothing left for you here." As he watches the Teresi vineyard, orchard, whatever you want to call it, burn to the ground in front of his face. Now, this is, in my opinion, where I think that Caesar ends up taking, and I know I'm not saying his name right, but he ends up taking over the entire crime family from his point, because there's no more competition for him. He's the only one left. Who's going to stop? And he always wanted to be Don, so he takes over the crime family in Sicily, rebuilds it from there. Can't confirm that. That's my suspicion, because they eventually continue to work with Empire Bay, all right? From the old country to the new country. But Isabella gets on the boat, isn't forced to have any sort of abortion, and a lot of people say that Leo's in the back, like Leo from Mafia 2 is in the back, who you saved because he helped you in prison. He's in the background on the boat with Isabella, and it ends beautifully. You hear some music, and you see Empire Bay in the background. Now, the entirety, now I know this went on for probably way longer than I wanted it to. It went on for 35 minutes, which is longer than I told you guys, but it's still shorter than the video I had before. Overall, I'd have to sit here and tell you I can give this game an easy 9 to 9.5 out of 10. Yes, that had its problems and its glitches, such as in Red Dead Redemption 2, you saw every muscle move on the horse as it would go. In this game, that wasn't the situation. You couldn't swim in the water in this game. Whatever. I'm not expecting Rockstar situations from a non-Rockstar studio, from a studio that was probably much smaller in development for the team than Rockstar had for Red Dead Redemption 2. Okay? Because a lot of people are making those comparisons. Alright? But overall, the game was beautiful, the story amazing, and overall, everything about this game was fantastic. Terezi was easy to like, extremely easy to like. Even when he eventually was stabbing and going against you, I understood where he was coming from to a point. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm also thinking from the point of the criminal mindset of Enzo. Not saying I am one, but from who's following the family here, okay? That's what I'm seeing it from. For anyone else who was watching me play, they would look at these guys and say, who the hell are these animals that are just destroying and out there killing people like crazy? Spadaro, on the other hand, very easy to hate. You know, obviously there's a good reason why most people hate him, but there's obviously a good reason why most people are willing to do business with him, because he just had the upper hand in every situation. If you haven't played this game, the review I just did of it doesn't even give it justice. I mean, hell, the music I'm probably using in this video is from just the end credits itself, and I don't care if I get a copyright strike, whatever. The title screen sets on fire after you beat the game because of the volcanic dust in the air. If that doesn't show you how much effort and love was put into this game, I don't know what will. Go and play it for yourself. I was only able to do so much justice for it. Hopefully you guys liked the video. You all have a great day, night, and or evening. And let me know what you think. Let me know if you love it, if you hate the review, if I could do better. Because I know, this is one of my very few reviews of a game that I felt like I need to go in depth with. Let me know if you think I could do better. Hopefully you all have a great day, night, and or evening. Peace.